Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DABCC TV. I'm very excited to be here with Kevin Goodman from RTO Software. Kevin's the CEO and founder of RTO Software, and this is also another one of our special RTO Software Solution podcast series. So, that being said, this episode of the RTO series of DABCC TV series is about PinPoint, and PinPoint is RTO's performance monitoring solution, and this is a really neat product, definitely very verbose and feature rich, so I'm really excited about learning more myself, and that being said, I want to introduce my guest for today, Kevin Goodman. Kevin, thanks for being here in the DABCC TV studios, and can you real quick tell us briefly about who you are and a little bit about RTO Software?
Sure, Doug. Always a pleasure. RTO Software is a company based out of Atlanta, Georgia. We've been in business since the year 2000. I am currently the CEO, but I also founded the company. And we originally started RTO with a mission to improve the scalability and performance of all apps that are out there on the network. We hope to be the Citrix or network administrator's best friend. I think I mentioned to you once before when we were doing the Discover series that maybe 10 years ago there wouldn't have been a need for a product like this because you had 10 extra people on staff who could go out and find out what was wrong with an application and form a crack team that would go out and do some type of quick and dirty analysis on it. But those days are gone. Those guys don't work there anymore. And what happens is you need a product like PinPoint to help you get down to the root cause of what's going on your network with your applications.
You bet. And as we all know, especially in the Citrix world, we always get blamed for, Citrix is the problem, right? Gosh, we've all heard that a billion times. We've heard vendors talk about that a billion times. So it's not always the Citrix server. It's definitely something, or it might be something within your environment. So PinPoint will help with that.
And a lot of times, as we found out from talking to our PinPoint customers, a lot of times it actually is Citrix. You'd be surprised how many times you're having issues with your zone data collector or something like that, and you need a product to go out there and tell you that.
Well, very good. Okay, so let's just dive right into this. Today we're going to talk about PinPoint. Can you tell me just a bit more about why somebody would want to, above and beyond what you've already said, why somebody would want to go out and buy PinPoint? Let's say they're not just a Citrix customer, but they have obviously an entire network environment. What does PinPoint do for them?
Well, that's a good question, and basically there are a lot of products out there. There's a lot of competition out there, and most of them try to tell you if the device, the server, is up or down, or if there's a particular service that is running or not running. And PinPoint tries to take it just one step farther and tell you if your application is running. We've all seen it many times where administrators say, wow, my servers didn't go down at all last year. And at which point, PinPoint will point out the fact that maybe that the server didn't go down, but the application was running really slow for certain periods of time, causing people to wait on it, and transactions were taking a long time. And you can't tell just by looking whether the server is up or down, whether the application is running smoothly or not.
Well, great. So let's continue to move forward, and let's dive a bit deeper into the technical aspects. In front of us right here is the PinPoint console, and we've already installed PinPoint. But what does it take to install it? What is the architecture of PinPoint itself?
Excellent question. PinPoint is a very easy install. It's just an MSI. The architecture is there's 3 pieces to it. There's the console, which you're looking at now. There's also an analysis engine. It's a collection engine that goes and collects data from agents. PinPoint is an agented product. In order to collect data from a server, we put an agent out there. One of the reasons we have an agent out there is we do a little bit deeper dive than probably some of the other products that you're used to. Most products read perfmon counters. What we want you to think of PinPoint is a whole new set of perfmon counters that you can't get anywhere else. And as we do the demonstration, we'll go over some of those counters metrics that we've used to create to get you much more information than you can probably get from anywhere else. As you know, and I think you may have said it in one of the other podcasts, RTO does the memory optimization management for Citrix. And when you get that deep down into a operating system, you learn a few things about what's going on in there. And one of the end result of that is the benefit that you get is shown up here in PinPoint. We know a whole bunch of stuff what's going on in that operating system, and so we expose that and make them perf mon counters per se that PinPoint can read.
Does PinPoint require a SQL database, or how does that work? How does the database? I know you're collecting a lot of stats, and let's say we want to go back into the stats. Well, where does it store this information?
You know what? We will export to any database, including SQL or Oracle. What is comes right out of the box, though, is we store the data locally. And one of the reasons that we do that is typically, let's say you're a Citrix administrator, you may not have the credentials to set up a database connection. Well, you can download, and what we always say about PinPoint is, you were asking how easy to install is, what we say is, you can download PinPoint from RTO Software in the morning, install it, and be getting useful data that afternoon. And to do that, we don't burden you with having to have a SQL database connection set up right away. What we'll do is we'll cache that data until at some time that you have that, and we can export it to that database at any point in time, and from there on out be connected to it. But to install initially, it's very simple, doesn't even require a database connection.
Well, very cool, very cool. So someone could, if they wanted to evaluate the software, they just go out to the RTO Software site, rtosoft.com, download an eval, install it on a server, and be off and running, right?
That's exactly right. The console will install on your desktop, and PinPoint scales very, very well, up to 500 servers, 25,000 devices. You can put the analysis engine on your desktop if you want to for an evaluation, but if you're going to get up to close 500 servers, you want to give it its own box to run on so it can do the collection.
Okay, great. Well, let's just let's get done with the conceptual talking, and let's get to the screen. Let's get our hands on the keyboard. Sound good, Kevin?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay, perfect. So in front of us is this PinPoint Management Console. Can you just real briefly, don't go too deep yet, just real briefly, what are we looking at right here? What's this view? Yeah,
so this is, we're an MMC snap-in, and what you're looking on the left side is applications. And to us, an application is a set of processes, data, and servers that it resides on. And as you see right here, and we'll show you, it's very, very easy to create an application. What you see here is we have a couple of applications. Citrix Server Farm. Fitch and Mathers is a Microsoft Com Plus application that runs on a web and talks to a SQL database. And a terminal server farm. I think it's important to note that this product doesn't run just on Citrix. It runs on IIS, runs on SQL and Oracle databases, runs on terminal services, runs on general Windows servers, runs for Exchange. You don't necessarily have to have it just for Citrix.
Well, that's good. That's good to know. And I know, a lot of our DABCC TV listeners are Citrix people, and we definitely do a lot of work also at DABCC TV and DABCC.com within the virtualization space. So there's a lot of guys out there that might not be just doing Citrix servers, and it's really nice to know that this technology will also work with 2008 terminal services. I'd love to know what you think about that also.
Yeah, exactly. We're all set for 2008 to come out. We're waiting on it, and we think it is one of the tools that is absolutely necessary to be in your kit bag when you convert over to 2008 terminal services. Of course, we work with virtual machines, either VMware or virtual server from Microsoft, and variety of other applications: Lotus Notes, Exchange, so forth and so on.
Perfect. Okay, so let's dive back into this. You mentioned an application, and an application to you might be a little bit different than what an application, what our listeners are thinking of an app. An app to me is Outlook is an app, Word is an app, right? But to you, Citrix Server Farm is an application. So can you explain this concept of what you consider an application to be?
Well, all those other applications that you said could be applications also for PinPoint. But, it's not just limited to that. To us, an application might reside on several servers. For example, on this Citrix server farm here, we have a couple of servers that's in it. And if you have an application like Fitch and Mather, it runs on a website and on a SQL database. To us, the application is the application in whole. So whether it be your Citrix farm, whether it be an application that spans 3 or 4 servers, to us, it's just a collection of processes and servers that make up, an application.
Well, perfect. Now, I have to ask, just looking at the screen in front of us, we have Citrix Server Farm, we have 2 Citrix servers, but a lot of Citrix customers also have their data store on a SQL server. And would a customer want to, PinPoint customer, also want to include the Citrix server or the SQL server within that application?
Absolutely, absolutely. If that's where they're sticking the zone data collector, or that's where they're putting any of their databases and stuff like that, that can become part of the application easily. One of the things that we've tried to do, and take the case of Citrix, you have a person that is in charge of the servers normally, the applications on it. But what you'll find out is they may or may not be the subject matter experts on that application. So you'll notice here under Discovered Servers, while we've been monitoring demo CTX01 and demo CTX02, we've noticed it's talked to other servers while it's been out there. So if you have a situation where you are a administrator, the application resides here on this server, but you're not sure the other servers it resides on, we'll go out and tell you all the servers that this server is talked to make it easier for you to pick out the other servers in the application.
That's very, very cool. So, because when you're with this concept of an application, I mean, heck, in a Citrix farm, you could have Exchange as part of the farm because Outlook communicates with it, probably the number one application. Web interface, which is IIS, right? Or maybe Apache if you're doing it that way. So this application of Citrix could end up every server in your environment. But you don't necessarily want to do that. But it will discover all the different ones. Now, when it discovers it, is that just informing you, or is they actually getting it, will actually track information on those servers?
At this point in time, it's looking at all of those servers agentlessly, and you can get base Windows metrics off of it, the same as the other guys, Perfon metrics, by monitoring agentlessly. At any one point in time, though, you can take a server, let's say your email server, and you can choose to promote it to be part of the application and start monitoring at that point in time. So at any one point in time, you can say, yes, this is part of the application. I'm going to go ahead and promote it. And next thing you know, you have another server easily added to the application.
And so you had mentioned these servers here are the servers without agents. So when you promote it, does the console automatically install the agent out to that server?
That's exactly what happens because you don't have time to go out and do that stuff yourself. So PinPoint's going to do it for you.
How do you create an application? Well, first of all, I'll throw 2 questions at you. I'll let you answer them in the order you see fit. But what am I looking in front of me, or what are we looking at right now? I see a bunch of errors, and I see a bunch of red, and red to me is stop. Don't go further. And my second question is, how do I create one?
Yes. Okay. So in this particular case, we're seeing we like to give the servers a health score, and that is a combination of a variety of metrics that we've gone out and taken a look at, and you can add metrics yourself to that health score. But we've gone out and we've determined that there are certain things that this server needs if it's a Citrix server in order to be considered a healthy server. This one here is in the red. It's critical. And let's take a look at one of these results, one of these alerts right here. I have one right here that looks interesting to me. It is the logon times are exceeding thresholds. Nothing's more frustrating than trying to open up a published app and having it take 30, 40 seconds. In this particular case, we have someone that is obviously taking longer than that. And if we want to, we can drill down into this and figure out what's going on. Shall we?
Cool. Can you do that? What happens when you drill down?
Well, take a look at this one right here. As you see here, we're working on a virtual machine right here, and what we're seeing is at this point in time, someone tried to log in and they exceeded a timeout threshold. Have you ever had this situation where people come to you, or you imagine this situation out there? Yeah, yesterday I tried to log on. It took forever, and I couldn't. Man, it was terrible. So you weren't here, so we didn't know what to do. So we rebooted the server. Well, what typically happens in that situation is you lose all the data, all the clues that would tell you. One of the things that we have in PinPoint just for that reason is something called replay. And the idea behind replay, it's almost like TiVo for your servers. All this time, PinPoint has been gathering this data for you and saving it off for you. Any one point in time you want to go back or TiVo back to when that alert was, you can take a look at what was happening. Okay, so let's take a look. We'll go into replay mode here, and let's go back to when we had this problem, and you'll see you get a screen that comes up. And at this point in time, if you want to, you can go drill into a server and take a look and see exactly what was going on at this point in time. If you'll look here, you see you can run the replay at normal speed. You can move it to 2 times. I want to look at it over a period of time. You move it up to 10 times and speed up, and you'll see as it goes on, you can see what was going on. Well, let's take a look at the report and see if we can figure out what was happening. So we'll bring up the report from that date, and what it tells us is that there was a user who took, in this particular user right here, took 23 seconds to log in, where everybody else, the top 5 users, were only taking 3.3 seconds to log in. So clearly we had an issue with this one particular user. If we go back, we can go back and see a traceroute report. We'll show if there was any latencies or anything, and perhaps it was something with one of the hops. So you can read this report and figure out if it's a network issue is causing the problem. And you can also drill into the server at this point if you want to, and see if you can find out anything within there. So if we look at this point in time of when this alert came up, notice we got a problem here of login time. Let's take a look at it. So what we can do is we can move right here, and you'll see here was where the spike was. So it gives you, between that and the report, gives you some pretty good information about what was going on with the alert.
Very cool, very cool. So that now for all the administrators out there that are listening, that gets that guy showing up at their cubicle and complaining that they weren't able to log on last night, they can go back, see exactly why they weren't able to log on, and trace that back to the exact piece. And not necessarily if that's a problem within the Citrix server. Maybe it's a problem outside the Citrix server, and they'll be able to see that with PinPoint.
Yeah, and so what you find is there was an actual alert associated with this, so it was pretty easy to go back. You can replay to any point in time. You bring up the calendar, you can replay to any point in time. And this happens when someone says, yeah, it happened last Tuesday around 3 o'clock. I was going to call you, but then the problem kind of went away. So you can just replay back to that date and see what was going on at that time if you want to.
What does it take to create an application?
So, yeah, it's very simple to create an application. What you want to do here is just go up and say add new application. Let's call it DABCC-TV just for a test. And we'll just make it a default application to show you how it works. And come in here, and you have several types of servers that we support. You can see it everything from Linux and SQL to IIS and ASP.NET. We'll just do a general Windows server here. Allow you to search and find find a server. Let's add that to it. And, click next and finished. It'll tell you if you have a license available, and it goes ahead and installs it. And at that point, here's a new server. Let's go in here and take a look at this server.
Very cool.
It's going to say, hey, you have me monitoring the server, but you have no real elements that I can define yet. It has some default ones here. So why don't we come in here and define some elements? For example, say in this application we want to pick out a particular process. What we've done is we've gone out and queried that box for all the processes that it has, and we can add one of those. And now we'll start monitoring that as well. We can also monitor services and all kinds of things in there. So very quickly, we can see how many working sets and what's in the working set. And here's that process. May take a second to catch up. In this particular case, on that box, there may not be an MMC running, but when that application does start, we'll see what's going on there.
Very cool, very cool.
Simple.
So now that we understand applications, we see how easy it is to install an application, what do we do with it?
Oh, well, let's take a look at here. Let's just to go back to that Citrix that we were looking at. Why don't we take a look at some of the metrics we're actually looking at? Okay, now I want you to take a look at this metric right here. It has our little RTO logo behind it. This one has our little RTO logo behind it. Well, those are very specific metrics that we've created. CPU abusers, starting with the CPS 4.0 and in 4.5, it has the CPU optimizations in there built in. And one of the things it does to optimize those processes that are running away with the CPU is it changes its priority backwards. So it lowers the priority of an application that's taking up too much CPU. Okay. Well, a non-specific Citrix monitor out there isn't going to know the difference between an application that's taking up too much CPU and an application that's put in the background that's taking up too much CPU.
Oh, interesting.
So one of the things that PinPoint does is it can tell the difference between those two, and it won't alert you. So if Citrix CPU optimizations has kicked in and is working and has taken that offending app and put it in the background, there's no reason for PinPoint to alert on it. So in that case, it won't give you an alert. For us, the CPU abuser is somebody who has normal priority and above taking up too much CPU. So we have these specific metrics that come in here. Another one of them here is recommended session capacity. And as you can see on here, we're on a server that's currently disconnected. But the idea behind that is, and RTOs wrote the memory optimizations. We know a few things about them as the makers of T-Scale about scalability and such. We'll go in there and do a determination of what we think the recommended maximum number of users are. And in situations where it goes above that, you can set an alert and be warned. To us, that's more accurate than doing your round-robin load balancing and more accurate than doing some of the load balancing that you're doing in the advanced metrics load balancing that you do with Citrix.
Well, that's very cool. That's very cool. So basically, almost anybody can do this. Can anybody use a tool like this? Or do we need to be PinPoint certified?
There is no PinPoint certification class available. As a matter of fact, our design goals for this product were two at the top of the list. Every one of the developers can recite them for you. One, you do not have to have anybody in the company who has PinPoint in their title. So there are no PinPoint certified engineers. Anybody can use this thing. All you have to do is be of some type of administrative privileges to get started. Anybody can use this. The second thing is we're never going to have, our goal is to never have PinPoint come up as the root cause of anybody's problems. So our agents are very small. Internally we call them the nano agents because we have a very small footprint on there, and we take up very little network traffic.
Why wouldn't someone just want to use perfmon? There's a bunch of competition out there. Obviously, Citrix has EdgeSight, and they're pushing that really hard, and it's part of the Platinum Edition. And why wouldn't someone just want to use EdgeSight or some of the other boys out there?
Excellent questions. You know what? Part of these counters that I was telling you about are counters that you can't get with perfmon. So you're just not going to get a CPU abuser's account. You're not going to get the recommended session capacity just by using perfmon. These are new perfmon counters that RTO PinPoint provides for you. So you're just not going to get the same level of detail by just being out there and being yet another monitor. As far as the EdgeSight product, it's a product that is obviously it's made by Citrix, and it does some things very, very well, but it has one severe limitation, and there's nothing EdgeSight can do about it, is the fact that it only monitors Citrix. So, we have, by the time the folks are watching this TV show, you're going to have Windows 2008 server. And what our customers are telling us, and the ones who are on our 2008 beta are telling us, is a lot of them are going to go it alone without Citrix. So if you're a terminal services user, you're not going to be able to use edge side. It doesn't work on straight terminal services. If you don't have any Citrix in your shop, you're not going to want to buy edge side to do your Exchange monitoring, your IIS monitoring, your SQL Server monitoring. It's just not available for those products. And that's, if you talk to those guys, that's not their focus. Their focus is Citrix. And I think what you'll see them coming out with in future versions is probably a very good NetScaler monitoring support. And as products in competition, we've left that to those guys. And we're going to go after the products that we think most people are using in conjunction with Citrix. That would be, Exchange and IIS, SQL, and non-straight terminal services.
You bet. All these, if I can maybe even point them out, all these other discovered servers.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So, that's a fair answer. I never like to comment on the competition answer. That's for you to say and for our listeners to decide upon if they believe it or not. So that being said, Kevin, again, I really appreciate your time. I have one more question for you, and that is the future. PinPoint seems pretty verbose right now, but obviously you have a roadmap for it. What can you tell us about what's coming in maybe PinPoint 4 and 5?
In general, I can give you an idea of what our philosophy is and where we're going. And, of course, I did allude to the fact that we're going to be supporting that brand new operating system. And one of the things that you'll see out of us next is if you've watched here's a plug for your other TV show, the one that we did Discover on. If you watched that and you saw how Discover looks in that type of UI, you'll see that these user interfaces between the two products will be merging in an upcoming release. And so basically we want you to think is Discover is static, one-time snapshot of data, and PinPoint is live. But other than that, it'll look the same.
That's great. Well, one of the other DABCC TV episodes that we are doing is with your new virtual profile solution. Do we see a time when there's a connection between these two?
As a matter of fact, the next version of PinPoint, where this one gives you the login times and will break it down and tell you how long you took in your script, the next one, in conjunction with the virtual profiles, will show you, and you can use this before and after, will show you exactly how long it took you to authenticate, exactly how long it took for your profiles to be copied over, exactly how long it took for your drives to map, so forth and so on. And so you'll be able to use PinPoint to get an accurate measurement of how well virtual profiles is loading your profile.
Very cool, very cool. Well, again, Kevin, thank you so much for your time today on DABCC TV, and I look forward to the next DABCC TV episode we have with you.
All right. Thank you, Doug.